Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Eric Carlson here again. I'm running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District in Illinois. Um, I want to talk to you about something I did a short video yesterday about making preparations and keeping your eye on the news about what's going on between uh, Russia and NATO over Ukraine, also involving the United States. You see that it looks like the United States is going to be sending troops to Eastern Europe. This affects everyone. I know a lot of people only want to focus on what's right in front of them: the price of gas, the price of food. All those things are important. As a congressman, what you need to be able to do is switch gears and be able to address one problem or another. And Congress has a big role to play in our preparations and being ready for something like this. Um, and I wanted to go into something today that in our district, in the 1st District, well over half the people are over the age of 45, which means most of us remember civilian defense or civil defense when we were kids. The old CD, you used to see this on buildings. Sometimes if you see some of the older buildings in the city or even in the suburbs, big public buildings, libraries and stuff, you would see this mark and you would see a sign for fallout shelter. Now, kids today might not even know what that is, but there was a time in this country where civil defense was designed. It came about in 1949, which was right after the Soviet Union developed their atomic bomb. We realized that, and we had done studies. The U.S. had not only seen what we did in Japan, but also had conducted so many studies on what the effects of a nuclear blast and and radioactive fallout were. So the stuff that looks quaint to people, like the whole duck and cover thing and the whole, get under your desk and everything, those are actually practical things. I mean, if you're that close to the blast, it's not going to matter. But for most people, the blast will not kill you. It's the radiation afterwards, radiation sickness. So they used to teach people in this country how to look after themselves, because, again, running a nonprofit organization that deals with disaster situations, when we go places, we see people who have lost everything and no one's coming for them. The government can only do so much. And in a major disaster, we did in 2017, we did three major hurricanes back to back to back. By the third one, down in Puerto Rico, Hurricane Maria, FEMA, their budget was gone. All their money was gone. And then people started saying, then the politicians got involved, say, oh, it's just because the government, Donald Trump doesn't like Puerto Rico and it's a racist thing. No, people, there's only so much money. And we just happened to get punched 3 times right in the face. And we were out of money after the second one. When the third one hit, they had to go to Congress to get more funding. That's why they were out of money the first time, because Texas got hit so bad and Florida got hit so bad. So it had nothing to do with racial stuff. And again, this is the division that the media and Democrats and people on the left will throw at you. Trying anything for division, anything that goes towards their narrative that somebody's out to get you, hold you down, keep you down, not give you what is rightfully yours. It's all bullshit, folks. Trust me, I was there. I was knee deep. I'm going to be posting a video about when I was down in Puerto Rico from CNN of all people. Yeah. So in this is video 14 of our Solutions and Problems series. And this is on civil defense. Like I said, we used to have this when I was a kid. It went the way of the dodo bird. And now what you have is supposedly Department of Homeland Security, which also FEMA falls under. They're supposed to have taken over this role. But I can't remember the last time I heard anybody come out and say, hey, listen, we're going to pair up with your local police and fire departments and National Guard. And at a local level, we're going to start teaching classes to people about what you need to do to survive in an emergency situation. Because what we're looking at right now, folks, is a very dangerous world. And nothing has changed. These same players, 40 years ago, 35 years ago, it was the same people that we needed to worry about. Now they've just gotten a whole lot more dangerous and more brazen about what they're doing. The Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians, North Koreans, and of course, international terrorists. All of them want to see this country fall. They don't care what race you are, how you vote in an election. They don't care anything about you. You just are what stands in the way. So the ignorance of the populace, and that is not a condescending or an insulting term. That means just the majority of the American people haven't been educated on any of these threats. And they don't, because the politicians don't. Politicians don't bring it up because they don't know. And this is very important to have in a congressman, someone who understands not only the local issues and the things that happen every day, but also the international level and can come and explain this stuff to folks, so they understand what they need to look out for their own welfare, their own families. Nobody's telling you this. When's the last time you saw a congressman come out and visit you and come out and do a speaking engagement at a local hall or a high school or a church and tell you, hey, listen, there's a problem. I'm looking out for the people in my district. You guys need to be ready in case something goes sideways in the Ukraine right now, which it very well could. And this is not paranoia, folks. You know, in Ranger Battalion, we have a saying: it's better to have and not need than need and not have. If you don't have these preparations made already, if something happens, such as an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, or a cyber attack that knocks out our electrical grid, it's been said, the studies say that within a year, 90% of the American population would die of disease or hunger, starvation, with an EMP, with our grid going down. Just look at how many people would die in the cold here. It was 7 degrees out most of the day today here. How many people, if you don't have a way to heat your home, you know, there's only so much firewood around, especially in the city. You're going to have to burn everything everything you can get your hands on to try and stay warm. People die in these situations, folks. I've seen it. I was in Iraq in 2003 during the initial invasion. Their power was knocked out. You had Baghdad, a city of 5 million people with no power. It's medieval, people. I can tell you right now, it is medieval, and things get tribal and go sideways really fast. So you have to look out for yourself, your family, your neighborhood, and your friends. Hypersonic missiles. Our Defense Department and everyone at the top seems to have fallen asleep and let the Chinese and the Russians get past us. They now field hypersonic missiles. These missiles travel at very low altitude and so fast that we cannot even track them, which means they're a first strike weapon. They can hit us before we know what's going on. They could knock out our grid before we know what was going on. We would retaliate against that militarily, but that doesn't help us, the people, the civilians, the people of the 1st District, people walking down the street. Now we're hurting. Now it's up to us to try and figure out how to survive. You can forget about the rest of your world, because all your internet, all your cell phones and everything, smartphones, that's all going bye-bye. That doesn't exist anymore when this happens. So every part of our way of life, everything that affects our economy, vehicles moving, electricity, gas pumps can't work, so vehicles can't get fueled. If your vehicle even runs after an EMP, which fries all the electronics, like the computers, the chips in your car, all that stuff gets fried. We have ignorant leaders also. These people are in there. They want to keep they want to keep their own power so they can get rich. So what they do is they have to keep us divided. So they keep you focused on this local BS that doesn't even exist. How many times, and I'm going to do a special video on this, have you heard systemic racism? Well, I'm going to prove to you in the next video that systemic racism does not exist. It cannot, by law. I will go point by point and show you. It's very simple when you look at it. Again, common sense, logic, and reason. Everybody out there has got these 3 things to one degree or another. All you have to do is sit back and look and listen to what I'm saying and say, hey, does that make sense compared to what you've been led to believe by people on the left? The only way they stay in power, because they don't know how to run things and they don't have any good ideas and they don't know what actually works. So the only way that they can stay in power, because they fail at everything they do. The White House just announced today, save that for another video. The only way they can stay in power is if they keep you afraid and tell you somebody's coming to get you. So it's white supremacists, the boogeyman, all the Trump supporters. Yeah, they're out to get you. Not true, people. Not true. I'm going to prove it to you. So we don't have a USSR anymore. Ronald Reagan, George Bush, we won the Cold War. We outspent the Russians. We spent them into oblivion. We collapsed their economy. That's what we should be doing to the Chinese. We never got in a shooting war with them because of our spending and the tactics that we took. Strong leadership, not weak leadership like you're seeing from Joe Biden. Weakness begets war, folks. Weakness begets war. Same thing on the street. You can take everything that happens at a macro global level and shrink it down to your block and see if somebody's going to be a victim of crime on your block. You can see who it is. Is it the guy who's 6'2", 240? No, probably not. Is it the little old lady or the small, weak kid on the street? Yeah, he's probably going to get picked on and bullied or become a victim of crime because criminals and bullies like Putin and President Xi from China, they look for weakness and they look for bullies. They don't want to stand up fight. That's why the Chinese aren't picking a fight directly with the U.S. They're trying to get consent. They're trying to see how far they can push us right now. But these things can escalate. Bad decisions on both sides. Next thing you know, you've got a serious war going on. We got complacent in this country. That's how we allowed them to get ahead of us with these hypersonic missiles, which basically we won't have ours fielded for the next couple years. So basically the other guy can hit us, but we can't hit them right now. We can hit them with other things, but they have the ability to do a first strike, which was always the entire thing during the Cold War. Was the Soviets and us were equal in what we could do to each other, so there was no sense in doing it. The mutually assured destruction, I'm sure you've heard of it. Well, now it's not mutually assured. It's they could hit us and we might not recover. We might not be able to strike back effectively. They might be able to weather whatever we could throw at them as they hit us again and again. So the things I want to bring up, a lot of you remember this still goes on, the emergency broadcast system. You hear it on your cable TV channels and on your radio all the time, the monthly test, the beep, the annoying stuff that you usually change the channel or turn the volume down on. The emergency broadcast network. The one time in my life that it should have been used, on September 11th, I was working downtown. When the second plane hit the building, I was listening to it on the radio. I was trying to get to a job site up on the north side, and I knew right then, I'm like, that's an attack. That's a coordinated attack. And I turned around to head back south, and within minutes, it was like somebody kicked an anthill. Everyone came streaming out of every high-rise downtown because they got word of it, and they didn't know if there was going to be more attacks. There was police vehicles, city, county, and state, 3 deep in front of every government building downtown, federal buildings, city building, state building. They were 3 deep there, and they had tow trucks there. If you even stopped your car to get out to look around to see what all the commotion was, they were towing your car because they were so worried about car bombs, suicide bombers. It was mass chaos. So I make my way out of the city. I get on 55. I'm heading south, heading back towards the house, and something struck me. I was like, something's different. I don't know what it is, but I can't. And then it hit me. There's no planes in the air. Usually when you're going down 55, you can see the planes coming in, the pattern from Midway. You know, they're strung out, and you see them lined up coming in. I'm like, there's no planes in the air. I'm like, this is big. This is bigger even than, just New York. This is a national thing. And then I thought, I'm like, okay, why aren't I hearing anything from this? Why isn't somebody from the federal government on there going, listen, there's been an attack. We're not sure of the entire details right now. We need people to shelter in place, or whatever advice they had at that point. You don't have to have a full plan when you make. That's why a lot of times in Washington, people will get to, we have to sit down and we have to do studies for years to see if this is going to work. No, you acknowledge that there's a problem. You have an idea of where you want to be, and you start towards that goal. You can adjust your plan as you go. But if you don't get started, you're never going to fix the problem. It's just going to exacerbate. And the solution that you did come up with and the study that you just did for 10 years is now too old. It's not relevant to the problem that you have now. This isn't hard to figure out, people. And this is what the American people want: common sense, logic, and reason. That's what I'm trying to bring here. If you send me to Congress, that's what I'm going to do. So I hope you can see this side. My light. I apologize, folks, for the lighting. Again, this is a low-budget campaign. I'm doing this so the American people can have some real representation in Congress. So I like solutions. So I'm going to give you my solutions if I were to go to Washington. First of all, we bring back civilian defense, and we do it through the National Guard in the states, and they would work with the local police departments and fire departments to put classes and seminars on for civilians, so you could educate the citizens about what they need to do. Because like I said, when a big thing happens like that, assume no one is coming for you. No one's going to bring you food and water. Nobody's going to come. You're going to have to survive and prepare on a family level. You need to be prepared to take care of your family with food, water, shelter, heat, everything you need to survive. And there's plenty of information on the internet. I'm not going to go into that stuff here. But if you don't know that you don't know this stuff and it happens, you're caught with your pants down, your chances of survival are literally slim to none. As a country, this is what we do at the federal level. We need to harden infrastructure, harden our electrical grid so it cannot be hacked, cannot be knocked out. In order to keep it from hacking, nothing should be online. This is so basic. Everybody got all in this technology thing. Oh, look how smooth it is. I would rather have a guy who walks over to Tony and says, hey, Tony, go down and tell Joe to flip the big switch and turn the power on. I don't need a computer that can be hacked by somebody in Russia or Kazakhstan and shuts down our entire grid, or infiltrates our water supply like they try to do down in Florida. They thought that was the Iranians. We are vulnerable people. Technology can make you vulnerable. It's a good thing in some ways, but it's a bad thing in others. We need to go back to a solid state. What I mean by buttons, knobs, and levers for this type of stuff. The stuff that can't be hacked and it can't be burnt out because it doesn't have any outside influences. Harden the infrastructure, also the electrical grid. And this is where, in my last video about unions comes in, I mentioned that I want unions to rebuild this country as far as infrastructure, real infrastructure, not this phony bill that they just passed that has all kinds of other bullshit in there, wasting your tax dollars on stupid stuff. This needs to be one item at a time. This would be hardening the grid. Boom. How would we do that? Well, first of all, I'll give you just the example of when we go down to these hurricanes, it's always the power lines get down. You see all the electrical poles are down. Why is this stuff not underground? This stuff should be being worked on. We should have another 250,000 electricians in this country working 7 days a week to put all of our stuff underground, harden our stuff in places where an EMP will not hurt it, bring back our manufacturing to North America for all the transistors and transformers that we need that are made over in China. So if our stuff was knocked out and these things blew, we don't have the ability to manufacture them here. How long does it take to spin up one of those factories? If you don't do it now, the next war will be a come as you are war. It's what you have right now, and it's going to be over fast. It's not going to be a long, drawn out, we fight for years and years. It may get to that point, but it's going to be so bloody, so violent, so destructive up front that if you cannot weather that first storm, you're done. Your leaders need to be looking at this and telling you this stuff. You're all grown-ups out there. The Democrats treat you like children. Like, no, the Republicans are going to take stuff from you, and you don't understand that, so you have to send me there so I can fight against them for you. You're not children. You know what you need. Common sense, logic, and reason, folks. Bring back shelter plans. Like I said, this stuff looked very childish and quaint. Oh, look, they're ducking and covering under their desks. You know what? All the tests that the U.S. did in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, all our nuclear tests, we did hundreds of them to see what the effects were on different types of buildings, on people, where people could survive. You put troops out in the desert, put them in a trench line, and set nuclear rounds off. This is what they did to the military guys, So all those guys who may have had, some radiation cancer issues later, well, we had to learn. So rather than look back at that, we have to look at it and say, okay, what lessons did we learn? We know that stuff works. That stuff literally works, but nobody teaches it. Do they teach this to your kids in school? I know they're out there teaching critical race theory. Do they teach how to survive in case right now we're at school, which most people aren't in their house during the course of the day? They're at work or at school or wherever. Do the kids know how to shelter in place? Do the kids know how to duck and cover? Do the kids know what to do in the emergency of a blast so you don't get blinded? How to get down, how to face? We used to practice all this stuff in the military because it's about survivability. The more people you have that survive an attack like that and are capable of looking after themselves, the faster this country will recover from that initial shock. It is up to the government to make sure that they have the structure and the teaching and the resources so that Americans can take care of themselves and their families. But they don't. No one tells you that now. When's the last time you had a congressman come and tell you that? Or come and sit down and do a town hall meeting in the district and explain this stuff to you and say, hey guys, listen, government's not going to be there for you all the time. I've seen this stuff firsthand, folks. This is why I'm explaining it. I have more experience when we go into this election, whoever, hopefully I'm the Republican nominee, but whoever on the Democrat side, I highly doubt, and we'll debate, we will talk, but I highly doubt that any of them have the experience that I have regarding these things, and they all affect all of us, these events right now. So keep an eye on Ukraine and Russia. Again, look online, the things that you should have. There's plenty of information out there. I want everybody in this district to be safe. and to look at the only way we get through this is together. Again, I'm Eric Carlson. I'm running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District here in Illinois. Thank you.